All right, guys, I am here today with Chance Mitchell. He's one of the top 205ers, which I guess you would say 198ers in the world. I think you're number five all time in the USAPL from what I could find. 678 squat, which is 307.5 kg. What is it, 424 bench,
Hmm.
192.5 kg, and then deadlift 844, which is about, what is that off the top of my head?
383 kilos.
383 kg. I'm a little rusty on that one. I'm usually pretty good with the kilo conversions, but I just wanted to talk with you today. You're one of the best in the world, getting insight into your training, into everything as far as everything, just nutrition, all the
Yeah,
things. What makes you as good as you are? Because how long have you been training?
dude, I've been training since I was a junior in high school. Middle, I mean, I was still like training for sports and stuff like that. And so I would, do track. I would do, football stuff. I'd do everything. But powerlifting at the end of high school was where it really picked up for me. And that was back in the day with Powerlifting Watch. I was going to Powerlifting Watch to find my first meet. I didn't know about USAPL. I didn't know about any of the like other federations. I knew, hey, what's near me? Cool. Powerlifting Watch says this meet. I'm going to pick this meet, and that's kind of where I started, man.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even know what powerlifting watch is because it's like open powerlifting is so, prevalent now, and that's where you find all the
Mhm.
numbers and such. And you can go to the actual federation's website to find the meets. But back in that like 2010 era, you had to go and like powerlifting watch and try to dig through and find meets. And it wasn't very organized. It was just really clustered, and things have come a long way since then. So you
I,
are 27 years old now.
yeah.
So how many years have you put in the game then?
I competed at my first meet in 2014, but I was training for powerlifting specific training since 2011.
Okay. So you've
So
been
almost 11 years of powerlifting specific training.
Were you like naturally strong off the like right when you started training? What were your numbers at when you first started, and what age was
Oh
that?
man. I mean, my numbers were so I didn't really start benching until like benching regularly until like 2012, 2013. So a couple of years into it, I was just doing like dumbbell bench pressing and like upper body push pull legs type of bodybuilding stuff. And I ran like small off for like squats. I did everything. I tried everything back in the day. But no, I mean, I think the first day in the gym, I was deadlifting like 315, conventional. Um, I was benching maybe, 45. I mean, not even a 45, like 25 on each side. So like 95 pounds, something like that. My squat was always pretty good, I would say. I could squat 225, 250 something right off the bat. So my lower body definitely was my natural strong point, I would say.
Were you 11 years old or not 11? That was 11 years ago. You were 16 at the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So 16 years old. You've been doing this about 11 years now, and you basically become one of the best in the game. So what? I mean, you definitely say you had like a natural affinity to lower body training. Um, what would you say has like made you, gotten you to the point you're at now? Like, what are the main things? What differentiates you from everybody?
Sure. So I think, me being around as long as I have and being so consistent, if you look at my open powerlifting, you have that database open, you can see my
Uh,
first meet and where I started. I started at the very bottom, man. Very, very bottom. Um, I would say now we look at some of the top level people in USA powerlifting and even mid level, and you kind of see this general range of what like 83 kilos can do or 82 and a half kilos. And that was like, I wasn't even quite there yet in the beginning. At 90 kilos, my first meet, I did in wraps. That was a NASA meet, and I squatted like 462 or 457. I benched 275, which was big for me at the time, and then I deadlifted 240, so 529. That was back in the day, first meet.
wow.
I've
Yeah,
just
I'm
I've just
seeing
been
it here.
consistent, man. Just been very consistent.
Yeah, I think looking at your numbers, you're like perfectly embody that consistency because this was April 2014 and 195 pounds. And then you just kept chipping away. It seemed like every few months, do a meet twice a year, it looked like. And your body weight hasn't gone up that much since then. You're still 205 class. So that's basically 10 pounds heavier from your first meet until now. And that's 8 years apart. So that would definitely be consistency.
Yeah, man. And you see the bench, how slow it really went up. And even now, it's kind of like we're really pushing it. And I'm benching 6 days a week in order to make progress here. But it is one of those things where it's just steadily chipping away, just barely, 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 barely every meet.
Yeah, that's one of the things like I've seen with, I talked to Candido, I talked to Sawyer Klatt, some of these guys, and they have to bench with a very high frequency to get bench to move at all. That's one of the things I've noticed just with natural athletes in general. Like you can't, for the most part, you can't get away with just benching, 1 or 2 days a week or three even. You have to really ramp it up to this crazy high frequencies. And have you found that to be the case yourself then?
Yeah, and I'm kind of in the deadlift specialist affinity like you are, where we have these super long arms, and the range of motion is a little bit further, which is no excuse, right? Like everybody's built and born the way they are, and you got to work with what you got. Obviously, we have the deadlift affinity. We got to kind of work harder on the bench, but it's more of just like the neural adaptation to training, where you have that like skill practice aspect and continuously adding in a little bit more, getting your technique better. And then just adapting, some top sets, some, more easy volume, that kind of stuff. That's been working well for me. But yeah, I do have to bench a lot in order to get it to move at all. It's kind of a pain in the ass. And I think you were talking, I forgot who it was. It was either you and Candido or or maybe Hack. And you guys were talking about like the trade-off for that extra day of frequency. It's just like maybe not worth it for the extra 10, 15 pounds that you may get, but it is for me at this point. I've put in so much to this, and yeah, 6 days a week is where I'm going to ride out for a little while.
Well, what's changed from like when you started? So when you started, and you guys can go look on Open Powerlifting, look up Chance Mitchell, and you will see one of the best examples of steady progression over the years. He is just like chipped away at this methodically, which is unreal to see. I didn't take a closer look until now at how methodical the progress has been. It's just been like consistently chipping away. There was never like huge jumps in there or anything. And, going from that 275 bench at the first meet at 195 up to, 424 now at 205, it's just crazy to see. So in your early days, like how often were you benching back then? I know you're saying you're doing 6 days a week now.
I think I started with 2 times a week, and that was working out okay. And then 3 clearly needed to be added. And then after that, it was like, okay, let's just try 4. And I could handle it, and I had the time to do it. So it was like, yeah, you may as well. There's almost like that thought process of if you're getting a little bit of work, or if you're getting good output from 2 days a week, why immediately jump to 3? Well, if 3 is sustainable and you can handle that in your day-to-day life and it's recoverable, everything else is fine, why not? And then it was like, okay, if I'm already doing 3 and I can recover from that, like may as well try 4 if it will get me that much more. And I was at 4 for a while. And then 5 came probably a couple years ago. And I've been at 5 since, and now we're at 6.
So when did you bump it up to 6? How long ago?
6 was the last 2 months. And this was purely because I just qualified for IPF Worlds. This is my first IPF Worlds that I'm doing.
Wow.
And so this is a big, big deal for me, obviously. So like whatever I have to do to exhaust everything I can, that's why.
You're 4 weeks out.
Yeah, I'm 4 weeks out.
So Chance is doing IPF Worlds. It's in South Africa, and you'll be competing. IPF is still, they have 205 class, right?
Yeah, 93 kg. Yeah.
Okay, so that hasn't changed because I know USIPL it did change. So there's going to be some big names from the US going down there then.
Yeah, it's me. So if you look at the nomination, I'll pull it up for you so you don't have to check this out. But Jonathan Keiko is the #1 slot for Worlds. So he's 888 kilos, which is like 1950 total.
Okay.
And then there's me. I totaled over the world record total at nationals. I totaled 1930. The next ranked third is Gustav Hedlund from Sweden, who totaled 1908 or 1910, something like that. And the next person right there is Sasha Stonbach from Germany, who totaled 4 pounds less. And then there's like two other people that are all right around 1900 total. So 6 people that are super, super competitive at Worlds from everywhere across the world. It's a big, big, big deal. This is a very competitive class.
How close? So how close are you to Jonathan then? Do you think you have a shot or like?
Oh yeah. So we went head to head at this last meet. He beat me by like 20 pounds, essentially, like 10 kilos.
Dang, man.
So it was very close. I had a bad meet on bench and left a little bit in the tank on squat. So had I gotten both of those, it would have been very close. So yeah, we're going head to head again, and I'm ranked second. But again, there's 4 other people that can be super, super close. So we'll see.
Now, do you think, like, how close do you think you are to like a 2,000-pound total at this point? When do you think that'd be in the cards?
I don't think so. To be fair, especially this is the big thing with like the IPF and traveling, is it's a 20-something hour flight to South Africa, not including like trying to get your training in, trying to get make weight, all that kind of stuff. It's a big potential hit. The stats show that people take a 5% hit on their total from that hard of a travel. So I don't think anybody will be at 2,000 total yet at this meet. But we will all be, or the top 3 will probably be around 1940, 1950, okay. I would say. And again, that's very close to the 10 times body weight.
That's just crazy. I remember when that was like a huge total for a 242, and now it's like we got you guys at 93 kg knocking that out. So what, now, I know you said you got to make it down to 93 kg, which is 205. Mm-hmm. What do you normally like walk around at?
So this morning I was 95 kilos, so 209.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, and I always chill there, and it's pretty easy.
What do you do for the weight cut then? Because obviously the weight cut is, or the weigh-ins are 2 hours beforehand, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what does that entail as far as the final week of preparation with getting to weight?
So it's usually adjusting the food volume that you take in. That's one thing. The next thing is actual just water manipulation, just either loading and kind of cutting it off at specific points. The next thing would be is if you already have the gut cut kind of down, so reducing the food volume, the next thing would be, I would say, if you have to get to this point, it would be a little bit of like sauna or sweating. There's like what's it called?
Like the natural diuretic type stuff, the dandelion root?
No, I said that, but I meant like emptying up your bowels or something like that, right? Like
the magnesium?
Yeah, magnesium citrate, laxatives, that kind of stuff. Usually it doesn't get to that. Usually you can do it without getting to that point. But it is reducing the carbs and cutting out sodium and all that kind of stuff. But typically the gut cut is enough for me, and reducing the water intake usually pretty good.
That'd be so tough. I feel like 2 hour weigh-ins, I feel like I'd lose a ton of strength or something. But because do you refuel after that, like tons of hydration and sodium, stuff like that?
Yeah. So the trick is really to make sure that you get so the last couple of days into the weight cut, I actually get a caloric surplus, and that is done by changing the food intake that I'm using. So like Cliff Bars, peanut butter, nuts, chocolate, all that kind of stuff that's very low volume, but actually has a ton of calories. That makes it super easy, and you can actually gain a little bit in terms of the caloric surplus, but also still lose weight, at least those last couple days. So that's typically what I do, and I'm usually great. So I think that I have, again, coming from the background of 24-hour weigh-ins, you kind of do this like crash dieting type thing at the end of 24-hour weigh-ins and weighing in. It usually doesn't go well, but because you have 24 hours, it's like, oh, it's fine. You just eat all you want the next day and everything. Versus obviously 2-hour weigh-ins, you cannot do that. There's no way that's going to work out well for you.
Yeah, no, I had some pretty extreme weight cuts, but you always knew you had that day to fuel up, and a lot of people take advantage of that in the form of like IVs and stuff like that. So you can always gain it back. I actually never got the IVs. I kind of wish I did, because that would have been much easier. but it's tough to like drink, 2 gallons back and try to eat all day. And but it's much, much better than like the 2 hour weigh-in. So do
Mhm.
you probably, I don't know, you probably don't want to talk about number goals for IPF Worlds because you don't want to like tip off your competition, but
I don't mind. I don't mind at all. It's not a big deal. I post my training and all that kind of stuff, so it's completely
well,
cool.
what are you thinking then? What are the goals?
So considering like the numbers that we're nominated with, so that 1930 total was like 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, something like that.
Jeez. All right.
Um, so all the US lifters have to compete again very quickly. So there's only so much that you're going to improve on your total. But I think realistically, so I squatted 678 pretty easy at this last meet. I think around 700 for me at this meet is actually pretty doable. And then benching closer to what I know I can do in training. Because in training, I've benched 452 and 441. So like 441 multiple times. 452 was on a fat pad, so can't really even count that. But 441 multiple times in training. I would like to do like 435, 430. And if I could do that versus what I did at nationals, having a really bad day, I only got 407. That would be huge for the total. And in training, the last couple weeks before nationals, I was looking to deadlift 850 something, 860. And I think I'll be closer to that mark if these last couple weeks go well. But again, it's kind of one of those things where it's the head-to-head matchup. I just need to pull what I need to. And I think if I can pull around what I did at PLA Nationals or Powerlifting America Nationals, I think 845, 850 is probably enough.
So 1950-ish on the total. That'd be pretty ridiculous.
If I did those numbers, I think that would be a little bit more. I think it would almost be 2000, but not quite.
Let's see. Okay, wait, let me do the math.
430 plus 700
700.
plus 850.
Yeah, that'd be like 1980. Whoo.
Yeah.
You guys can tell I was never great at math in school, but
I have the calculator up.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I just off the top of my head, 1980 would be absolutely unreal. What was Norris's total? I know he's like number one all time. 2033?
So Jesse, I don't know if you know this, that total that Jesse did was on pound plates at a local meet. And it was like, it was 100% pound plates.
Yeah, we know
he's
that.
done, a lot. I would say the number to beat would be Ashton's total from.
That was, wait, what in the heck?
Grand
Okay,
Prix.
so Jesse's meet was the SPF one on pound plates, or no, wait.
No, it was a USAPL meet, but they use pound plates at it. And you can look at the numbers and you'll be like, why is it 0.4 for this?
They used pound plates at a USAPL meet, really?
Yep.
That's unheard of nowadays.
If we're looking at, let's see.
I don't know.
It's in USAPL Idaho.
Oh, yeah, here it is. 750, 440, 825. 2015 is the total.
Yeah. But it was done on pound plates. And if you know anything about pound plates with that kind of weight, it definitely makes a huge difference. But obviously, can't take anything away from, obviously what Jesse's done. So it's still, highly up there. But again, kind of going back to the travel stuff, man, like the travel is a huge thing where, people are like, oh, well, I did this total at this meet. It's like, cool, do that when you have to fly 20 something hours to the other side of the world and compete head to head with every single other person at some foreign place. Like it's a whole different thing.
What's the game plan as far as like how soon before the competition are you getting there?
So I'm actually doing, I don't know if you've seen that gym that Larry Wheels trains at in Dubai. It's one of the gyms is Desert Barbell. They're hosting me over there 2 weeks out. And I'm doing a couple seminars and workshops and some training. That'll be 2 weeks out. And then when I'm there for 2 weeks for 1 week, I will fly to Johannesburg. From there, that'll be like a full week out because I have some athletes to coach at Worlds and then also just trying to get acclimated to that and train there. So I'll be there for a week. I'll be completely transitioned over to the time zone because I think it's only an hour difference between Dubai and Johannesburg. So I'll be pretty set up, but it is still obviously flying across the world.
Wow. Are you going to meet up with Larry Wheels?
I don't know. I don't know what he's doing. Is he still like into powerlifting stuff right now? I thought he was doing like some strongman or I don't know what he's doing.
He's kind of like retired from powerlifting, but he's going to go hard into strongman. But I know he's in Dubai, so that's where he's based out of.
If he probably will be there during the time that I'm there, I would assume. Yeah.
Yeah, you should hit him up because
Yeah.
you're very strong, and to be you could collab on a video or something like that. So that'd be cool.
Do you want to know something funny that kind of bothers me?
What's that?
People do this, and like I know it's like it's kind of funny, but it still does. I'm like, come on. And the King of the Lifts will share like a post of mine or something, and then they'll be like, "Oh, Larry Wheels Jr." or something, and I'm like, "God damn it!"
Oh yeah, yeah, and then
Because we do look similar, but I see it, and I also deadlift a lot. He deadlifts a lot, so it's fine.
does Wada show up at your door with the drug test after those videos? After the
Oh,
like
after
Larry Wheels
the
Jr.
right, yeah, that is one thing that we should talk about, right? The WADA testing and all that kind of stuff.
I just
So go ahead.
Well, one thing that's interesting. No, I made that joke because like Larry Wheels obviously on PEDs, and if they're calling you Larry Wheels Jr., they're like, all right, this guy's suspicious. We got to go check him out. But didn't I swear there was just a video from Bob Matthews, SSJ Bob. Didn't he just get drug tested at like his gym? Did you see
I
that?
don't, I don't know. Maybe I heard you say that, I think, in the last podcast, but I don't know for sure.
I think I don't know if he got drug tested. I got to look into that video more. But what do
The
they
thing with
do? No, go ahead. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So with the drug testing situation, so like I don't know if you know, there is like a full registered testing pool that a lot of the top USAPL lifters and IPF lifters. So we'll get into the split of that, but USAPL lifters have to monitor their whereabouts. So like if you're a top level USAPL lifter, you have to go into this form. You fill out, okay, hey, I train at my gym at this time and every day, and you have to keep that time slot available. Or I train, or I'm going to be at work at this time, and you have to make sure you mark, at least an hour spot for that, so that way they can come drug test you during whatever time, at any point, for any reason. That's been the case for years and years and years. Typically, most people aren't going to be drug tested, but it is still there. There's some people that get drug tested, 5 times a year, like out of me testing. Like some people just don't ever get tested. I have actually never been OMT'd, but I have been IMT'd when I just showed up to a meet. So if I was like handling for one of my lifters, I would just show up and they'd be like, "Hey, Chance, like, cool, I'm glad you're here. Let's actually get you to be drug tested." And I'd be like, "Cool." And then I just go back, and that's actually some people, and I've heard other top level lifters say that they call that an OMT. It's actually not an OMT. That's an IMT. And OMT versus IMT are completely different. So for USAPL, they test for specific things in competition, and for out of competition, they test for other things, right? Like, so in competition, it's usually just stimulants and actual anabolics, right?
Okay.
In comp, that's like really the only thing. So if you were doing whatever recreational drug, it's probably not going to show up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you're off season, it actually will. But depending on what it is, there's only certain things that you will receive a suspension for. So, for example, if say like in the off season, you get like an OMT and you are taking marijuana or something, right? There used to be a rule where if this is something that you would actually fail for outside of this test, like in another test, if like IMT or versus OMT, you would automatically be declined or disqualified from a national team or a world team. That option or that rule actually got changed, but it would show up. So there again, whole different thing. People sometimes miscommunicate or say that, hey, I was actually OMT'd when they weren't. And that's a whole different thing. They could get away with certain things where they couldn't if it was in comp.
So OMT, is that out of meat comp testing, and then in meat testing is IMT?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, that's what Sawyer Klatt, and Sawyer Klatt's in the middle of freaking nowhere. Like he's literally on the Canadian border. So he said he's never been out of competition tested. So I don't think the guy's on anything, truthfully. Yeah. But that's interesting. Now, it's like Raw Nationals, like a big meet like that. How does it work as far as the testing? Like who gets tested?
Yeah, that is something that when I listen to your podcast with Johnny and other people, obviously, the OMT system or the in-meet system for nationals, you would think it would make more sense to be like, hey, let's just test the top 10 or top 12 or whatever. the primetime flight or whatever it is. But no, it legitimately is random depending on who is running the meet. It could be that they just want to pick certain people. It could be that they literally just select, best lifter and then X other people. Like, who knows? Like, they can decide however they want to do it. At local meets, I've actually been in a local meet coaching, and the people that are running the meet said, "Hey, Chance, who should we test?" And I literally picked out people to test. And that's happened as well. There's been very much weird situations like that. So at Raw Nationals, it is still random.
Yeah, so it's almost kind of like dependent on the meet director as far as what they want to do, or
yeah, it really is. Usually, so as another example, if you set an American record, an open American record, you're supposed to be tested. So that's a USA powerlifting rule. Also, for context here, I am no longer a USAPL lifter. I am a Powerlifting America lifter. So it's a whole other conversation we can get into on that.
All right. I want to hear that. But
yeah, USAPL Raw Nationals thing. That's how it's run.
All right. I do want to talk about that for sure, because that's very interesting. Oh man, this is fascinating. All right, I don't know where to start, but people who have been tested out of competition a bunch?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
Like, who is it?
Jonathan Keiko,
okay.
the 93 kilo lifter. He's been drug tested a ton. It's usually going to be your national team members or whoever wins nationals. So someone like Taylor Atwood, someone like Ray Williams, someone like Kim Walford at the times when she was at the top in the USAPL. Those types of lifters usually get tested a lot. But you can look up and see the actual results and see when and who they were and that kind of thing.
Well, that's what I saw, because I looked up the Raw Nationals one and I was like, to my untrained eye, I was like, the only big name guy I think who got tested was Russ, and I was like, man, there were so many good lifters there. Why didn't they test everybody else? And for what it's worth, I don't think I've said this. I don't think the majority of people are doing anything. I think there's outliers. Have you ever, you don't have to say anybody or anything. Have you ever thought man, I don't know if these people are natural? Have you ever had that thought yourself? Because there's that huge perception outside of the tested lifters where people are skeptical.
Yeah. And I would say I definitely have. And I say that's more to do with the look or injury risk, or how injured they are all the time.
So Candido said.
Yeah, that's a huge red flag to me. But outside of that, no, typically, and there's another example, right? Typically they get caught eventually. So Jamal Browner being a big example of that. He got caught. And eventually if you keep going, especially if you're going to compete at international comps, that is an easy one to get. Because they will test those people. If you're flying to do an international IPF meet, they'll pick you versus other people that just aren't going to be there. So there's stuff like that. But yeah, there's definitely people I see, man.
Okay, that's good. That's a good perspective, because I don't want you to ever have to out anybody, but it's good to know that even within your field, you're okay, I'm a little skeptical of some of these people. And I think Jamal's he pulled 794 that meet, 360 kg.
No, he didn't. he failed. He didn't get there. No.
I thought he pulled the 360 at the Toronto meet. And that was the one he got popped at.
No, he missed it. So the NAPF, no, not NAPF, the CPU meet. Yeah, he missed 365. He only pulled 777.
Oh, yeah, he tried 804. You're right. Okay.
Yeah.
That was the meet where everything came out, right?
Yep. He didn't have a good meet.
Yeah, he squatted 606, bench 402, 777 deadlift. I mean, they're respectable numbers, 231 class, but what did he pop for? Was it it was Turinabol maybe?
Yeah, it was Turinabol.
See, it's funny, in all my years of PED use, I've never used Turinabol because it's there's
what
far
is
better. It's a mild oral, so it's an oral. It's very mild and supposedly has a very short half-life, from what I remember. I've never personally ran it because you know, in my day, like it was like you take everything that's strong, you don't take weak stuff like Turinabol. Turinabol is a steroid, but it's one of the weaker ones. So like there's way better, D-ball's way better, stuff like that. Um, but I believe the reason people like it is the half-life is relatively short. That's what a lot of MMA fighters pop for. So let me actually see here because this is interesting. Let's see, Turinabol half-life. I wonder how much people may abuse like suspensions or bases that are in and out of your system very quick. Is this correct? It says that the half-life is 16 hours. Whew. That would make some sense. But it can be detected for 4 to 6 months. Interesting.
Because he tried to claim the pre-workout, excuse.
What do you think about that? And what do you think about like Norris doing the same thing? Because Norris was what he got popped for some banned stimulant or something.
Yeah, that's what happened. So I know that it is true that some like products can be tainted by whatever they're mixing at whatever lab, that it could have residue in it. It could have this, but I think that's like still not a great excuse no matter what.
And then the other guy, Kelly Branton.
Yeah, he was definitely a cheater.
Yeah, but he tried to claim the pre-workout too.
Right, but he had like multiple things, right?
I think so, but it was funny because Hack like was making a joke on Instagram after that about the pre-workout he claimed, and the company emailed him. They're like, "Hey man, can you take that down? It's bad for our advertising." I was like, "Oh crap!" So that was kind of funny. No, it's interesting though too. Like, and I got nothing against Jamal or anything, and we're good with him, nothing like that. It's just interesting too because like, see where his numbers are now. It's like, holy crap! Mm-hmm. Like, it makes me wonder sometimes. I can't help but think like I'm like, how strong would guys like you be if you hopped on PEDs? Like, holy hell. Like, Jamal's pulling a grand. And if he was, let's say he was at like 777 or 771 before he got on PEDs. Well, you're at 844. Like, holy hell. If I'm doing the math
in a weight class below. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing the math in my head. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, what? It's like, do you ever think that too? Do you ever have that thought where you're like, what would I be doing?
Yeah, but I know there's no way in hell I would do that.
What are your reasons for not doing it?
I think it's just like the biggest thing is just not worth it on my system. And I'm terrified of getting injured, like severely injured, like tearing biceps, tearing quad tendons and whatever all that kind of stuff is just terrifying to me. And that from my perspective is usually why that happens. Even Hack is a great example of someone that was like a very high level, tested lifter that, he gets on, and starts using, and then all of a sudden, boom, starts shooting up like crazy. All his numbers take off. But eventually you still get to that point where your like connective tissue, your joints, all that stuff cannot handle what you're doing, right? Like, and you start tearing muscles or whatever it is. And for me, that just seems like never worth it. I would say something like TRT for me, when I'm like 40 or something, may be a good option. But I was kind of curious. I was going to ask you this too. Is there a reason why you won't use that now?
Oh, one of the main reasons. This is actually good. Yeah, one of the main reasons. My weight would shoot up a good 20 pounds if I just took TRT even.
So even if you restricted your diet?
It would still shoot up. Like, you'll literally gain muscle without even training. Like, yeah. And to be honest, I'm at a point in my career where I'm just like, I'm not training that hard. It's whatever, I'm past it. But I'm 225 pounds, let's say. That's what I'm at right now. I would be minimum 240, probably 245 on TRT. And to me, the thing with that is the sleep apnea. I had a really bad sleep apnea. My neck was like thicker than now. It's pretty thick, but like back then it was crazy. And I could sleep like 9 hours, be exhausted. And you could say, just get a CPAP, but I honestly hate CPAPs. I can't sleep with them on, and I don't snore anymore. I can sleep like 6.5 hours, 6 hours, and I feel great. So that's one of the main reasons. Like, I'm just like, I don't want to deal with sleep apnea again and feel exhausted all the time. And whether you like it or not, like whether it's muscle or fat, the heavier you are, the harder it is on your body. So if I'm 240, 245, even if it's muscle, I'm less healthy than at a lighter weight. And really, I should try to get down to like 215, 97 kg. but it's just, I want to be lighter. I'm not trying to set records anymore. I'm not going to. My body is destroyed, dude. My body is like, it's so beat up. Even if I took anabolics again, I wouldn't be able to hit probably what I hit back then because there's so much damage, wear and tear, kind of what you talked about. So it's not even, there's no point for me to even do anything. Like, I'm not going to be pushing the numbers I was, I feel like. And those are really the main motivations. But I'm literally sick of needles. Like, I did it for so long. You become a pincushion, Chance. Like, you're a pin. Yeah. I'm just like, I stuck needles in myself for 9 years. I don't feel like doing it anymore. It becomes very, you get over it. Like, you're not like afraid of the needles, but you're just like, this is so annoying. Like, I have to like pin again. It's been a week. It's been a couple days. I got to take a shot. Who wants to be dependent on that?
Would you have, I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't even know about TRT. Do you have to take it once a week? Do you have to do it every few days? What is it?
Roughly, the doctors administer it once a week if you get a prescription. A lot of guys just do it on their own because it's not expensive. That's what's funny. A bottle of testosterone that'll last you, let's say 10 weeks is $35. It's not expensive. So,
wow.
Yeah, there's no expense to it. The only thing that's expensive is like growth hormone and like maybe sometimes Anavar and then halotestin. Halotestin is expensive. Other than that, it's not expensive at all. And I actually, this is fact, once you become a big enough name and you're on gear, you will be approached by sponsors for your gear, like legit top. I'm talking multi-million-dollar operations these guys run. Like, I got approached years ago, multi-million-dollar operation this guy was running with dealers all under him at high-quality pharmaceutical facilities. Like, they don't just make this in their basement. This isn't crappy, like some guy in his basement cooking it up. This is like made in a professional lab, top quality, the best you can find. They approach you. They say, hey, all I want is just a referral. Like, anybody who you know who needs it, refer them to me. And that's all. They don't want your money or anything. And they just send you whatever you want. So the last few years, probably the last like 4 years I was on gear, I was just getting hooked up left and right. Like, I know other people who had the same hookups. You become a big enough name and you'll just get hooked up. Like, you don't even have to pay thousands of dollars of free steroids. Top notch too. It was like the best stuff. No side effects, like not the bad side effects from the stuff that, you know, guys making in his basement and not sanitary. This is like lab quality, high grade, multi-million-dollar operation. Now that guy he was a fantastic guy. He never revealed his identity, the head of the whole operation. It's such a thing. Like, there's so much risk. He never told me his name, but he was very nice to me. We corresponded over, you know, encrypted emails and such. And he was like he would ask me, how's the family doing? Like, all this kind of stuff, like, nicest guy ever. And he wasn't the one. He'd have people under him, like, shipping it out and all that. It was like a huge operation. Unfortunately, feds got him. Yeah. I know. He's a great guy. Like, I love the guy. Like, I don't even know who it was, but he was such a fantastic guy, stand up. And it's funny to think, but like, the feds got him in December. So it was crazy, but I obviously wasn't taking anything at that point because it's been 18 months, but you will literally get like approached with sponsorships for gear at a high level. It's crazy. It's like such a underground world. But I don't think I've ever told that. That's a good story.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, I have so many questions stemming off of this, but one that I definitely wanted to ask you. Okay, if we're talking about, like, say for example, none of this is prescribed to you, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when you go to some, you know, big dogs meet in Australia or whatever is going on,
yep.
How does that work?
As far as traveling with it,
yeah.
Here's how I did it. I was always sketched out. I'm like, I've literally heard of guys, they pack the syringe loaded with the stuff in their like carry-on and they don't even say anything about it. Like, I've heard this. I'm like, I'm too sketched out by that. Like, I'm not packing needles in my freaking carry-on. That's crazy.
Right. I mean, if it's prescribed, then it's fine. But
no, they're not prescribing you tren and stuff. So I was like, I didn't do needles. So I didn't do a ton of like big meets. All the big meets I did were in California, Boss of Bosses, Record Breakers, all that. Now, I would pin Thursday at like freaking midnight, like in the morning, like, okay, 1 a.m. Thursday morning. the plane, we're getting on the plane at like 6 a.m. right, for California. I would take like 3 cc's of this, 3 cc's of this. So I would take a bunch of tests and a bunch of tren. I would inject it at like 1 a.m. when I woke up to get ready for the airport to the drive. And then that'd be Thursday. The competition would be, 2.5 days later, roughly, because we're going back to what is it? Mountain, not mountain time. I'm spacing out here, Pacific time.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be about 2.5 days later. So my last shots were 2.5 days before. And then I would the orals, like the oral steroids, you can take on the plane. They don't give a crap. Like they don't even, bro, they're not checking that. They don't care. They just want to make sure it's not like actual recreational drugs. But you could take a pill box of like, whether it's a prescription pill box you have from some other prescription, and you can put your Anavar in there or your Anadrol, or you could take you could take anything. You could take a bottle of vitamin D and pour it out and put your Anadrol in there. And you take that and you can take that, no problem. You're never going to get caught. But that's a lot of people. There's people who will be out at the meet and they have gear and you can get it from them. So like I did one time, I flew for a meet in Nova Scotia, Canada, right?
Yeah.
I'm not packing anything. That's crazy. But the guy who flew me out there, because I was sponsored by USP Labs, Jack 3D, he worked for them. So he flew me out there. I could get endless supply of Jack, which would probably get you popped by WADA now. But he gave me a hookup. He's like, here, have all the tren you want. I've got it. You can go, you just go in the bathroom, pin.
That's what I figured it was like. Yeah.
These are fantastic questions, because honestly, Chance, I've never talked about this stuff. It's funny. I don't know. And it's not that I'm hiding. I just don't know. Like, I forget about it. I'm like, I forget to even talk about this cool stuff. And no, there were some fun times. Like that's when I met actually Greg Doucette out there at that meet. I did the meet with him when he was just like a bodybuilder powerlifter. And now he's like this freaking huge 1 million+ people on YouTube and Instagram. And so I've been around some crazy people, but those are some fun nostalgia questions. That's like the meet, Chance, the meet I did with Hack.
Mm-hmm.
He was sorry, I'm rambling on.
Raw Unity.
Yeah. So that was when Hack and I we flew out there together. My dad picked us up. We flew to the airport out of Milwaukee, and we were literally, we had like got a room, and like I was like pinning shit, and Hack's like, "What are you doing, dude?" And I'm just like, "I got to get ready for the meet." And like all this trend and stuff. It's hilarious, but he was completely natural, and I just had no idea. Like even back then when Hack was natural, I was like, "This guy's on roids. I don't believe him," even though I never saw him like take anything. Because like he's so strong, I don't believe he's claiming natural. Turns out he was natural. And look at his numbers now. Like it's kind of what we talked about, where the numbers are crazy after people hop on with that natural base. So
yeah. Well, I also would say, man, this is kind of, I really wanted to get this done before I had this conversation with you, but it's been a while since I've gotten my blood work done and getting looks at some of the stuff. And I know you're super big on that. But the last time I did, and I got my test levels checked, I was at like 200 something.
No way. Wait. You were 200 test level?
Like I've always been super, super, super low, and like on the very end range. I think the normal end range or the lowest range is like 300 something. And I was like, yeah, I'm not like, it's fine. Like that's just how I've been forever. But I wanted to get it done again so I could show you. But yeah, it's been like, go ahead.
I got to see this for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to get it done. But even at that point, for me, there's nothing I can do, right? Like I mean, I just have to have, like, you would have to go through, like, I take zinc, I take whatever other supplements that will help raise it naturally, but it's always going to be so low. Like, and I always feel like that.
What kind? Do you know what kind of zinc it is? Because you could be taking a crappy form of zinc that's like non-absorbable.
I mean, it's in like a multivitamin, like a.
Yeah, it's
not going to help.
No.
Not that I'm saying that I think it's going to matter. I'm just saying, like, any natural way to improve it, it doesn't matter. Like, it's not going to be enough.
Well, here's the question. Like, what are the natural supplements you currently take?
Vitamin D3.
How much?
10,000 IU.
Perfect.
Okay. Multivitamin, I take like more than I should with that. And Cissus, Cissus quadrilangus, the plant extract.
I really don't know that one. What's that for?
It's like joint support, but it actually really is really helpful. I take magnesium.
What kind of magnesium? Sorry.
Magnesium citrate, oxide,
Yeah.
aspartate. Is that not good?
That's all. I mean, I would use it up. I would use it up until you, and then you can get better forms. Those are crappy forms. Anything
Sure.
else?
I think that's it. Yeah, that's it.
All right.
Oh, I take vitamin K,
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Let's see that one.
vitamin K, and I take copper. Yeah, that's it.
Is that pure encapsulations?
Yes.
Okay, I could see it kind of far away. I'm like, I know that brand. That's a good brand. Pure encapsulations, very good brand. I could see it from far away. I'm like, I think that's pure encapsulations. No, that's funny. The vitamin D, perfect, 10,000. You want to have that up. That'll keep your level of vitamin D at like 80 out of 100, which is perfect. That's high. That's what you want. Vitamin K, you want to get MK7 and MK4, which you're probably getting. That's good because that'll make sure the calcium is absorbed in your body and not going into like, your arteries and such and clogging them up. And the magnesium oxide and citrate are kind of like the crappy kinds because they're just not as absorbed. So when you run out of that, use it up. It's fine. Like I would definitely use it up. Once you run out of that, go to magnesium glycinate. You need to get magnesium glycinate. It's the best form. Then magnesium also helps ensuring calcium is properly absorbed and utilized and not like just, doing destructive things like kidney stones and stuff like that. Sure. The multivitamin, most of them are trash, to be honest, because they're not absorbable forms of like the things you want. So like the zinc and magnesium need to be zinc glycinate, magnesium glycinate. Okay. So zinc as well. Use up what you got, and then you want zinc glycinate. But as far as like testosterone, the natural things you can do that are WADA approved, they will not get you popped. There are herbs like Tonkat Ali, Fedosia agrestis. Have you heard any of this?
Yeah, my problem with that is like those extracts and like finding a reputable brand or like manufacturer to me is the risk factor here, because if something's wrong or that it's like mixed or something is whatever like tainted, I'm terrified of that happening.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't know personally how much test boosters actually help. I've seen anecdotal evidence of Fedosia agrestis boosting my luteinizing hormone, which raises test. You could try the Gorilla Mind brand Sigma thing because it's got all those in it with the good zinc, good magnesium, and all that. That might be worth looking into. But those are kind of the main things like Tonkat Ali, Fedosia, ashwagandha, zinc. Like those are the boron. I've done boron at high doses, 30 milligrams. But I think
my question is like how much is that all gonna really help to push me into a range that actually is a tangible like effect on me, right? Like that is the real thing. Is like what if high 200s or whatever for me is low, but it's fine. Like how much does it really affect things if I'm like 200 versus like 400?
Well, if it's dependent on the individual, and the only way to do it to see is trial and error. So like if your testosterone from the test boosters went from 250 to 6, that'd be freaking, twice as much. That'd be noticeable. It's possible. So you really would have to just test the waters, see your labs before and see after. But that would be noticeable. If you're really that low, which bro, I'm honestly like, I would be blown if you're consistently that low because your strength would be so high. It doesn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense. But like
I bet I'm very confident it's been very low for a long time.
Do you have any labs at hand or like on your computer?
No, it's been a while.
When was that you were saying these references?
This was probably like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
You don't have my chart you can pull up?
It was with Quest, but I don't.
Yeah, all right. No. I want to see. I'd be curious to see all the numbers because I like luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone. If those are like normal, I don't know. I just want to see your cholesterol. Like, do you remember cholesterol, lipids, any of that?
Cholesterol was fine. Vitamin D3 obviously is deficient, and so that's why I started taking it. But
There are
Yeah.
natural supplements that you can take to boost your performance, but I think you don't have to go crazy with them. There's just certain
Right.
things.
But like, I don't have any, like, I drive, like sex drive is normal. Everything else is normal. I just have lack of energy sometimes, but that's really it.
Well, I'd have to see what your hematocrit's at as well, like your red blood cells, how thick your blood is, stuff like that. Because if your hematocrit's low, that could, low iron, that's another one that could cause issues. Um, thyroid could cause issues. If your TSH is very, very high, that means your thyroid is slow. That could be, so really, you should just order a custom panel off of Merrick. Because it's like you can do it for $100. Then you can literally get all this stuff tested and we can take a look at it. So I was probably less than $100.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'd be curious.
Okay.
It'd be.
It's just one of those things. It's like, cool if I know, but where really am I going to be able to change? Naturally, I don't know that there's that much that you're going to really be able to do.
But you got to look at the whole sample. So you got to look at everything. Look at the thyroid. Look at the hematocrit. Look at the iron. When you see this stuff, you can make little tweaks to optimize performance. That's the new wave. That's going to be the next wave of natural powerlifting.
But again, like, I'm terrified of getting a brand that I don't know that is, and I'm taking all of these different things that could be tainted, and then I'm running the risk of like me failing the drug test for something crazy. So it's to me, it's like that is super not worth it no matter what.
And I totally get that, but just you want to get a picture of all of your numbers, like not just testosterone. Look at everything, and then you can make some. If you want to make these decisions, then it's good to know and not bury your head in the sand. You know what's going on.
Yeah.
So that's where I would say with that. And like, I think here's another reason why I would say you're natural, because your neck's not crazy. Your traps are not crazy. You're not like crazy vascular.
Are you sure, bro?
Yeah. I mean, you're not, I'm sorry, Chance. You're not like months, but
hey, I only bench 407 or
like, have you measured your arms?
It's like 16 and a half.
Okay. See, what did Sawyer tell me? 16. Okay. Same thing. He said 16 and a half. I told him the same thing. I'm like, okay, I know you pull almost 800, whatever, but like your neck is not massive in your traps. There's a ton of androgen receptors up here. They would be much bigger if you were on gear, but people are still going to be skeptical.
I feel like half your audience though is going to be like, well, yeah, Chance deadlifts 844 on an Alico. Are you stupid? Of course he's on gear.
I know. I'm working on it. I'm working on it with these guys, but because what I said with them, I was like, one thing that always sticks out to me is the John Hack thing. I literally grew up around John Hack. I was around him. Like John Hack we went to the same university. So I saw him and I'm like, this guy is totally lying. He's not natural at all. He's so strong. Like I was like, there's no way this guy's not natural. He's freaking a beast. And I look at where he is now and I'm like, okay, he was natural. In fact, like when he actually got on gear, his numbers exploded off the charts. Like he's destroying everyone now. So I'm like, yeah, he clearly was natural, but I had 100%, I was 100% convinced he wasn't. So I have to take that lesson now. And I have to look at it like objectively, because
do you think Hack didn't look like that, right? It was kind of like your vibe from him.
Hack
was it? Yeah.
Bro, Hack looked freaky. I got a video on my channel from back in the day. He was doing a 330 clean and he looks jacked as hell, like jacked out of his mind, shredded, jacked. Like he was only like 180 pounds, but he looks unreal. It was a 330 clean. He was natty as heck. Like that was back in the early days of Madtown Fitness in Wisconsin. So I'm like, he did have like a pretty good look, but I believe now he's 100% clean. Look at his numbers now. See, that's something I want to ask you. Like you said, for the reasons you don't want to do anabolics, but what if you did, like, how tempting is it to say I could be the best in the world if I did, and I could do it like Hack does, where Hack does TRT dose of testosterone, 250 milligrams a week, just 250 milligrams for his cycles. He does 12 weeks on, he comes off for 12 weeks. He does 12 weeks of cycling, he comes off 12 weeks. He does 250 tests, and he does Anavar, which Anavar is like, there's hardly any side effects, and it's crazy for strength. What if someone's like, okay, you could do something like that and you could become the best and deadlift 1,000 plus in a full power meet and blow everyone away right now? How is that not tempting?
It's so not tempting for so many reasons. I have no like thought about it at all. Like, wow, I don't care about deadlifting like 1200 or something ridiculous. Like, to me, I would much rather pull 900 clean and do it drug free and have the best in the IPF. And the only reason why I say it is, one, I hate deadlift bars. I think they're awful. I think it teaches bad technique, and I think it teaches like it's such a bad way to deadlift, I think. And it just enables people to get away with really bad technique. That's one thing.
Wait, could we
Go ahead.
expand on that real quick?
Yeah,
you're
sure.
fascinating me. I'm sorry, I get off on tangents because I
Yeah.
want to talk about something, and then I'm like, I want to talk about that. What are the mechanical issues with the deadlift bar that it teaches?
So have you seen have you seen like the 1,000-pound deadlifts, like sumo, like in meets? Like it's ridiculous. Like the bar is completely bent before anything like moves off the floor, and they're nearly locked out before it even moves. Like that's obviously one thing, and that's not like that has nothing to do with like bad technique or anything. That's just inherently part of the deal when you're deadlifting that much weight, sumo, and where position is such a big advantage. Versus if it was 1,000 pounds on an Alico, it's not moving. Like it'll have some bend, but it's not going to be anything close to that. Where the positional advantage is so ridiculous. That's one. The next thing is it teaches people earlier on to almost jerk the weight up, and that they can get away with that. And it's a whole different thing when you're using a very stiff bar like an Alico or like a Rogue Ohio Power Bar. It's a whole different deadlift. It's a whole different movement.
What mechanic, like what cues would you have to do differently on the power bar? Because I've used a Rogue Ohio Power Bar, and that sucker does not bend at all. Like it's like zero freaking give. It's unreal. What would you say like you have to cue yourself as far as the differences?
I mean, it's different versus conventional. Like sumo versus conventional is definitely a whole different thing. In terms of like how do you actually have to like tension and wedge into the bar and get that the slack out, especially with sumo. When for me, I have extremely long arms, super short torso. Like my leverages and like starting position is very good. But it would make me kind of have to pull from a block pull position. And I don't, that's one thing I just don't like. Me personally, again, I think it's fine. I think, the heaviest deadlifts sumo are still reasonable. I mean, you're still valid, in USPA and all that kind of stuff. I just don't like how different it is in terms of the movement.
Man, I got so many questions. This is great stuff. All right. No,
so, when was the last time you pulled sumo on like an Alico? Like, and try to get up close. Yeah.
It feels awful for me. And it's the question: is sumo in fact easier than conventional? All those people who hate it, what would you say?
It's so much harder in terms of technical proficiency versus conventional so for example, if I could wake up tomorrow and pull 844 conventional instead of sumo, I would do it immediately. Just switch. Because it's so much more consistent. Like it's so much more predictable. There's not a lot of little factors that can mess you up if you're an inch out of position here, if your foot is too far away, if you're not quite close enough, like you're just dead off the floor. You're not getting it, period. Versus conventional, it's pretty mindless to set yourself up in this position and then just execute and just grab the bar and go. It's not hard. So from that standpoint, I think it's harder. But from the aspect of being able to do more weight and more volume and all that kind of stuff, sumo makes it easier to do that because it's usually less on their back, but it's also dependent on the person's leverages.
So would you say like sumo, the main limiting factor with people is the technical proficiency? They haven't taken the time to learn the movement, but they would pull more if they did?
If they have at least normal rate, like leverages for deadlift, yeah. If they have at least somewhat pretty good leverages, yeah, they definitely would.
I feel like this is the best explanation I've ever heard on the subject. Everyone always just goes one way or another. They go, sumo, like, have you seen all these lifting ball videos? They either go, sumo is easier, and everyone goes, and then everyone else goes, no, it's not. And then they go, well, no, it's just because people haven't taken the time to learn. I think you gave a fantastic answer. So basically
if your arms are super short, your sumo is going to be so out of position that it's probably not worth it. and you should probably just pull conventional. If you have normal leverages, longer arms, or even favorable, you can do both. But at that point, you probably are going to get more out of being able to be less prone to injury, or like tweaking your back, or hip. If your hips can handle it, generally, I would say sumo is probably going to be for you.
It's interesting. Yeah. So sumo is just much more technical and tougher to learn, but overall the leverages seem to be more favorable for those with normal or good leverages. That makes me wonder like what I could have done. I just never explored learning the movement enough, truthfully. I never put the time in.
And you had such a big base from how you started with conventional, and you put so much time into that. To try to switch over and try to deadlift what you were doing conventional would probably be such a gamble that it's not worth it. And then also you probably don't have the musculature, and support to handle that on your hips and adductor and all that kind of stuff. And you don't want to risk like an injury or something like that too.
So it's almost like sumo. If you start initially, like in your early years of training, learning that you're going to have a much better shot. This is probably the best answer I've ever heard on the subject, hands down. Like intellectually, you nailed it. I think it's like, I never thought of that, but that's the best explanation when people go sumo versus conventional, which is easier, what's going on? Like, that's the best answer I've ever heard.
How many athletes have you worked with where they're like, oh, I really want to try sumo, or hey, we should try to get you to go sumo, and things are going well in the first like block or so, and then they start complaining about their adductor or hip flexors, and it's always just this repeated thing that it, like, consistently always is a problem. And some people just like don't have the structure for it. Like some people just cannot handle it, and no matter what you do, if it's lesser volume, less intensity, they just can't do it. And that's been such a common theme that I see with like new athletes that I work with, and I'm like, oh, here we go. This is one of those people that can't do it, but they really want to. And it's like, I understand that your sumo is better, but your conventional is just more consistent and you can handle it more. So we're going to stick to this. So it's so dependent on the person, man, that it is one of those things we can look and be like, oh, this is less range of motion, but how you actually get there and you break the bar off the floor and actually have the support for it, it's completely different.
Man, that's interesting. No, one thing I want to circle back to, like you said, so what's the highest deadlift in the IPF, or like in the IPF? You said 900. Would that put you at the best ever as far as just your weight class, or all time in all the weight classes? So
in my weight class, I have the best deadlift of all time. That's nice. 383 kilos in the 93s. In by points, I have the best deadlift.
Wow, pound for pound?
Yeah, Jesus has the best deadlift, like highest number, the absolute number, but by points, the second highest is Taylor Atwood. Taylor Atwood did 340 or 750 at 163. And by points, I beat him by like 0.02, something ridiculous. So, and that was 844 at 204, 203.
Jesus did 887, correct? Or 881 or something like that? Yeah. So do you think 900 is possible for you?
I think 400 kilos is possible for me. I don't know if I'll make it to 900, but I think I can get pretty close.
What do you think about like Sawyer Cladd saying he wants to do 1,000? Do you think that's youth talking, 20 years old?
I loved your response to it, because you were just encouraging and you were like nice and didn't try to make fun of him. I mean, you said that like people in the comments would be like, bro, like this is a little wild. Which is true. I mean, he was ambitious, but I liked that you told him like, I'm excited for you and like happy. I thought that was nice.
Yeah, it's funny now because like I'm not lifting the heavy weight myself, but I love seeing other people, hit those numbers. And he's 20 years old. I'm like, I remember how I was at 20. You think you're gonna, you think you can do anything, and I love that ambition. So I wasn't gonna discourage it or anything. And he believes it, like he does. He's like, got the mindset. So I thought that was pretty cool. But people were definitely like, this guy's crazy. I'm like, that's Sawyer. He's ambitious. He's 20.
Yeah. He definitely was way ahead of where I was at his age. So you obviously want to just encourage that as much as you can. And even if you aim for this ridiculous number, maybe you get pretty damn close and, still.
I gotta circle back to like, what do you think? So you said the reasons you don't want to take steroids are like, you hate freaking deadlift bars, and all the federations that are untested are deadlift bars. And now we got the Kabuki deadlift bar, which has more bend. So it's like the Texas Deadlift Bar had a lot of bend. Now we got even more. What are the other reasons you're like, heck no?
For the same reasons you're talking about your health, I think it's just a poor decision for me. And I think my like mindset of like, I want to just be the best and I'll do whatever it takes. Probably not a good idea to get invested into that or start into that route, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. I totally get that. I think
I would easily be the one that does what you said of like, hey, I have this leftover vial and we're about to compete, so let's just finish it up. And I would do shit like that, and it's like, no.
so. You're all or nothing.
I'm all or nothing, and there's no way I would put my health at risk like that.
You'd be like a 242er at that point.
Probably,
110 kg class. Like, it'd be crazy though. It'd be, God, I mean, we saw what Hack did. Hack came over from the IPF, and now he's just killing everyone, like just destroying everyone. Let's be honest. Don't you think that would happen with a lot of the current IPF, USAPL crop if they made that decision?
I think that's more of a question for you. Do you think that?
I do.
Okay.
I
obviously think that.
I'm not trying to set you up either. I'm not trying to like clickbait, but like I literally think like, assuming we're seeing these numbers and a lot of them are truly natural. And you look at like Jamal, 777 deadlift, and now he's cranking out God knows what, 1,000 plus. And we see Hack pulling 900 pounds after he pulled 694. It makes me wonder, bro. It makes me wonder. But this is why people also have skepticism. They have skepticism because they say, look at John Hack, the greatest ever. And he was only doing 694, and you guys are doing 800. You know?
844, man. What is the multiplier on that? I'm pulling over 1,000.
Like, you would easily pull over 1,000.
Right.
But then people say, well, this guy, he doesn't want to take roids, so he might be on it already, or they're skeptical of that. How do you pull 844 naturally? Yeah. Like, you know,
I got long arms, man. Look at these.
Well, I have a
6'3", 6'4" wingspan at 5'8".
Hold on, I will say your competition history is rather methodical. We talked about this in the beginning. Let's take a look. Your bench is literally like a just slow progression all the way up. So
I do want to give you a ton of credit here. And you're going to be like, oh shit. If you look at my database, so you can look at the Raw Nationals.
All right. Raw Nationals.
Last year.
All right.
And you can look at, where is it? I pulled 345 and I missed 355. You see it?
Yep.
Or 783. Then the next meet, you see I pulled 805.
Correct.
365.5. And the next meet after that, I pulled 383.
Okay.
And you see that progression there versus the other two were kind of like around the same. Like I benched around the same, squatted around the same.
Yeah.
What do you think I did to improve my deadlifts?
Oh shit! Are you gonna say what I think you're gonna say?
I am.
Damn, dude, for real. All right,
for real.
Let's tell the people what you're talking about then.
45 degree hyperextension.
I've been trying to tell people about this for years, and no one like. Sometimes I talk to some of these guys, and they don't know what I'm talking about. I'm like, guys, this is the key. I swear by that movement.
And I posted on Instagram. I was like, this secret exercise that I'm not going to tell anybody about is what is doing it. And so like I started doing them like after deadlift work, and I would load up like 230, 240 pounds and just hold it in my hands, extend it out like this, chin down, and then, you know, as aggressive as I could do it for like 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 12 for twice a week. And that was like the biggest thing that made that improvement for me.
I'm not surprised because that's what pushed me over the hump as well. Like when I was trying to break into that 800 range, like I was like right at the tops, high sevens, and I couldn't break through. What do you think propelled me in this massive takeoff where the back raise is like crazy?
And do you feel like it was more that it was like your erectors were growing from it, or do you think it was like your glutes and hamstrings, or what?
For me, glutes and hamstrings.
Yeah,
I had a crazy strong low back.
Yeah.
Like low back was not the problem. My hamstrings got so much stronger from that I was like, this is it. This is game changer. Um, and I would push it heavy. Like I think the most I've done is like 460 for a single, and then I did 405 for five. And I didn't always go that heavy. It was more so in like the mid three range for
Mhm.
reps. But that blew up my like lockout power, and just even speed off the floor was noticeably improved.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think for me, it was that I didn't do a lot of direct hamstring and glute work, period, before that. And so that sudden like surge of all that extra stimulus really just immediately raised the ceiling. So that was the biggest thing. But yeah, I wanted to give you some credit on that.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, that's fascinating. Like everything. So I'm fascinated by this conversation. But so what I want to touch on your training. Obviously, you said
Mhm.
earlier you do 6 days a week of bench, which it's crazy, but I've seen this time and time again for natural lifters, and even like me dabbling drug free myself now. My
Mhm.
bench doesn't move unless I do it like all the freaking time, which is really frustrating. But so you got the 6 days a week of bench. Um, what is like your frequency on squat and deadlift?
Squat, I've been squatting 3 times a week since 2015. Like just constantly three times a week.
Low and high bar?
Um, Low bar. Hmm.
Low bar only?
Yeah, low bar only.
That's what Clat's doing too.
Yeah, I don't deal with high bar at all, and it's been working pretty well for me. So deadlift is twice a week frequency, and it's usually not much volume at all, a little bit higher intensity. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's what Jesus said, and like a lot of I've noticed this as well with natural lifters, because even though I'm like my audience, a lot of them are like skeptical of natural. Like I did a
Mhm.
poll once, and it was 85% of my audience is natural. So it's kind of funny. No, I kid you not. Like everyone thinks my
No, it makes sense though. That I mean, it's just not going to be that many people that are would be on it at the level that you would think the average is. You know.
yeah, literally I've done a poll, and 85% of the audience is natural. So I think this stuff kind of applies better for people. Um, and Jesus said the same thing. He's like, I don't do hardly any volume on deadlift, and uh, his training is obviously just a whole different ball game because of the intensity ranges he's working in for squat in particular. So
Mhm.
it's different than what everybody else has been kind of. But the 3 days a week squat frequency makes perfect sense. I find it interesting that you guys do mainly just low bar, no high bar, but Sawyer said the same thing. So
Yeah, the extra like accessory work would just be like belt squats, leg extensions. That's the bulk of it, really. And I don't like changing the movement too much and getting not as much skill practice with like something like low bar. It's too much of a change for me.
now, so accessory wise, are accessories very low? Like, what do you think of these? Do you hit upper back at all directly?
Yeah, I have 2 days a week that I do a lot of rows, like low rows, lat pull downs, pull ups, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so you do a lot of upper back accessory work. Do you do like a lot of upper body accessories for bench or anything?
Yes, even though I bench 6 days a week, I still do a ton of tricep work, chest
Okay.
pressing, shoulders, all that kind of stuff.
So just high volume on all the days, pretty much. How
Hmm.
long are you in the gym each day?
Too long, too long. I mean, probably on a bench only day, probably like an hour and a half. If it's a squat, bench, and deadlift day, then maybe 6 hours.
Holy hell.
Yeah.
6 hour SPD days?
Yeah, and I say 6 hours, but if it was like cut down as much as it could be, probably four. It's kind of one
My
of those things where you're in the gym for other,
yeah,
talking and that kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean that's fascinating. I love the answer. It's I've been there myself. That's why I relate. I'm like I'm trying to I get up at 4:30 to open the gym here and everything, and like do classes and such. I don't have that time anymore, but like I've
Mhm.
been there, bro,
Yeah.
whatever it takes to be the best, right?
Yeah. 100%.
God, that's fascinating. No, I was gonna ask something. Just so many questions that I can't remember. Like I forget what I want to say.
So I have a couple questions for you. With the drug testing stuff. On one of your it's not your episode, maybe it was just an actual video you posted. You were talking about like the OMT system, and you feel like that not enough people are OMT'd. Um, do you? So I guess the big thing now, and we should talk about this with the Powerlifting America and USA Powerlifting.
Yes, sir.
You know that Powerlifting America came about because the USAPL switched with the IPF. So like they're on their own; they're this separate entity. And now, like Powerlifting America is their own separate thing as well. The drug testing system. So, like USAPL, what I really like with USAPL is they did have a very good drug testing system. The problem is they did their own tests. So that was why they switched, or they got kicked out of the IPF essentially, because the IPF didn't want USAPL to do their own internal testing and then say, "Hey, look, we're all clean," because we know what happened with Russia, essentially.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know Russia got popped with like a bunch of stuff, and it's Russia, so it makes sense.
Right. So the other countries still view us that way. And it's funny because I have the podcast where I talk to other countries' lifters, and they're like, why are US Americans so strong? And comparing to the other countries, especially in the IPF. And a lot of people think a lot of Americans are cheaters, like in USAPL or IPF. So that is a big thing, and that is a big reason why the IPF kicked them out. So now I'm with Powerlifting America. Powerlifting America is their own IPF affiliate, and we do things the way the IPF wants, which actually is kind of something negative that I'm not too happy about, but it is kind of where we're at in this stage. Powerlifting America is so new that their drug testing is kind of up in the air right now. So I don't know too many people that have been tested with Powerlifting America yet, unless they were a top level lifter already from USA Powerlifting. But now the IPF is completely in charge of us, and we're not involved with USA Powerlifting. So there's a whole bunch of stuff we could talk about with that, but
Yeah, I mean, I think the tough thing with like, let's say somebody only does nationals each year and they only get tested in nationals. Well, that gives 364 days to essentially run things that are short acting, come off, be good to go if they come off in time. And we're not looking at specific blood parameters like luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, which would totally really expose some things if those were presented. Because if I'm looking at somebody and they have like a tanked LH and FSH, 1 + 1 is going to equal 2. It's going to be like you're doing something for the most part, and it's not entirely cut and dry, but it's pretty cut and dry. And I feel like that would really solidify some things, so to speak.
So that point about the nationals, like only being tested at nationals, that's only going to apply for so many people. I mean, the top level people are getting tested way more, but I don't even disagree with the fact that there's still plenty of time for them to stop using or come on and off if they have an idea where the testing is. But eventually you get to that point if you're successful enough that you will be tested enough. But yeah, I mean, the truth is there's 1,000 lifters at nationals. Usually that means there's only 10% is going to be tested, so 100 people. Most people are not going to be tested at nationals or even at their local meets. Most people won't be tested at all, and that's just how it goes. But unfortunately, now how do we change that? We change that by either putting in way more money, so the lifters pay more money to pay for more testing, and then we have to decide, okay, how do we want to do the testing? The blood tests that you are in favor of, I think, is a good. It's effective, but and now it's like, okay, what's the best use of our money and resources if it's going to be that much more, or is it worth it to just do more OMTs and do the OMT system? In my personal opinion, I think more OMTs is the way to go. The problem is still deciding who do you want to do it, when, and all that kind of stuff. I would think that that's going to be the best way to catch people. But even still, man, it's so weird for me to see that like a lot of people don't believe that a lot of them are clean. I mean, at USAPL and IPF, and I have no idea what it is. Is it just the strength? Is it the look? because like, you know, someone like Russell, right? If you look at like him on Instagram, you look at him and I see the comments are like haha, but he's obviously on gear, clown face or whatever. You see comments like that all the time. But it's like, you know, he's like 5'5" and like small, like, but on Instagram he looks big, he looks giant, but he looks natural, honestly. In person he just looks big. He's Nigerian genetics, he's like grade A, like Nigerian genetics. You know, there are some people that are going to be outliers. I don't know.
I've seen too people with that shorter, stockier build, almost, they do have the best all-around genetics for all three lifts. Whereas someone like you're taller, you've got the genetics for a big deadlift, but your bench may never be like crazy good. That's just how it is. So that is a fair point as far as like height and limb length and things like that. And because the ones who are always doubted are obviously Russ and Ashton. And I'm going to talk to Ashton actually at some point. Like we've spoken. We're gonna have him on here. And he's fairly short.
He's about my height, yeah.
How tall are you guys? I really have no clue. I'm sorry.
So I'm 5'8.5", 5'9".
So Russ is quite a bit shorter.
Yeah, he's definitely shorter.
Okay. How tall is Jonathan Keiko, by the way?
Shorter. He's 5'5", 5'6".
Okay, I thought some of these guys, they're okay. So that does make more sense. And the one thing too, at Raw Nationals, I believe it was like one person popped out of the entire meet, which is just a low number. But I don't know. It's just a tough thing because, you know, there is no great answer. I feel like there's no like.
But again, even in that, right? Like, who's getting tested? You know, if you're looking at who all got tested, are these people that have been around in the sport long enough to have gotten caught? There are things that like that we have to kind of include, right?
I wonder how long it would take me to find it. But it was like the only big name guy I think was Russ, and then I feel like I know more about the sport now. But I didn't know who the heck anybody else was. Oh shit, that wasn't what I wanted.
I'm gonna pull it up too, because that database, I would be able to see a lot of people that
I don't even know. It's a big site. I'm trying to find where it would even be. Anti-doping, maybe, is that right? Drug. There's a bunch of stuff on here. I won't take forever looking for, but I'll see what I can find.
I have it right here.
Is it the suspended members part?
Suspended members? If you go to anti-doping, sorry, if you go to usapowerlifting.com/drug testing, and then you go to the top, and then you look at drug testing database.
Drug testing. Oh, yeah, there it is.
At the top. And then just scroll down to July, and then you'll find all the Raw Nationals.
Because this is updated as of October 6th, 2021. God, I don't even know.
Yep.
I'm trying to work
2021.
Oh, that's current suspensions. Here we go. So we could even look at, wasn't Raw Nationals, didn't it just happen this year?
Yeah. This last year was 2021 Raw Nationals. This was in June. June
okay,
14th.
So let me go to 2021 June.
So there's a lot of big names on here that got tested.
Oh, is there? Okay. See, maybe I misspoke. I'm willing to admit that if I did. What day was it? 16th?
It's June 14th through the 20th.
So we've got.
The 19th, yeah.
Let's see who we got here. I'm literally just going to see if I recognize anybody.
Jesus, Ashton Ruska, Austin Perkins.
Okay, I have heard of him. Russell Ori pass. Yep. Taylor Atwood pass. Angela
Brady.
Fortino pass. All right. This is good. Dennis Cornelius, Joseph Amendola, Jonathan Keiko, Jesus, Ashton. All right, I appreciate you bringing it to light because it's good to see actually. Now everybody passed, but I mean, so that could lead to like, why is everyone passing? But at the same time, like,
but that's my point. Is like these are people that have been around, so it's not like these people haven't been tested either. So again, you kind of look at, well, it was 1,000 lifters, but it was really 100. But of those 100, how many are people that really have been around forever, right, or years? So that's really
Raw Nationals. Doug Currents failed. Was he the only one? I don't know who the hell that is, but we got one guy who failed. It looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well. I mean, I'm not. So I was right about the one failure, but I was wrong about there were a lot of big names who got tested. So all right. Well, I don't want to beat a dead horse. I mean, we can
No,
talk
no,
about
no.
it. It's just
Yeah.
interesting. So for you, as far as you though, like what is the ultimate? I love asking this question because everyone's got a different answer. What's the
Mhm.
ultimate goal here? Like, what is your ultimate goal, lifting wise?
IPF World Champion. That's probably up there as one of the best things. Going to IPF Worlds was a huge goal, and that is obviously accomplished. Now, coaching a world champion, IPF World Champion, everything is revolves around IPF and my goals there. So, world record deadlift, that should be pretty doable at this meet. Um, I don't really have any hard goals, man. It's honestly just do as much as I can. And, it's one of those things when you first started. When I first started lifting, there was no way in hell I would ever get to a 700-pound deadlift. I was like, there's no way. Like maybe 650, 670, something, if I'm lucky. And that would be insane. And then all of a sudden, boom, 700. It's like, okay, maybe 750 deadlift. That would be pretty cool. And I was like, but probably not realistic. 750 maybe 800, maybe, and I sound delusional saying this, but I really want to get 800, drug free in a meet, and that knocked that out. That was Ashton's record. Took Ashton's record. Then maybe I want to get, I don't know, whatever I can hit. And now it's kind of like, okay, I want to deadlift 400 kilos at 92 and a half, 93, which would be the best deadlift of all time in the IPF. Period.
That's what I thought.
I think I already have by points, but 400 at 93 drug free bra is.
That's what I thought. I thought it was 400. So I got a question, random question.
No. I'm saying, 400 kilos is the biggest deadlift in the IPF.
Correct.
But I'm saying by points, it destroys everybody because Christoph Wierzbicki was the one that did 400, or maybe it was someone else, but it was at a couple weight classes heavier.
Do you think he locks out his deadlifts?
Christoph?
Yeah.
No, because it's a deadlift bar.
No, but I've seen it. He's gotten a lot of flack that he never has like fully locked out with his shoulders back on his deadlifts.
With straps?
I don't even competition, bro. His competition deadlifts are like sketchy, man. Like he's like not fully extended.
Some of them looked like that, but he also has the leverages. Like I've seen what his like normal deadlifts look like. He locks out below his knees, and
he's unreal. You have pretty unreal leverages too, though. Well, I got a random question. What is your conventional compared to like your sumo? Do you ever go heavy on it?
I haven't pulled conventional in like 8 years, probably.
Oh, dude, you don't even train it?
Nah.
Damn, dude, unreal.
I probably could pull like low 700s, but no, I don't do it.
It's just see, you're fascinating me. All right. That's crazy, bro. That's so crazy. Yeah. Blowing my mind here. I'm just like, damn.
Because it's like, why? What is it that really is going to help that I can't just do other accessory movements to bring up weaknesses or lagging points,
Fair points. It's just crazy though. Wow. All right. Because you could argue, okay, well, conventional builds more low back strength. Wouldn't that help?
Then I'll be like, okay, cool. I'm going to do 45 degree hyperextension.
Okay. Well, I like that answer, so I can't.
See?
Okay. Here's the thing too. You're 27 years old. When do you turn 28?
August
what?
16th.
Oh, damn. All right. I'm 24th. We're close.
Oh, okay.
That's what my stepdaughter's birthday is. That's funny.
Nice.
No, so like you're gonna do IPF Worlds, you're gonna win it in 4 weeks here. So I'm making the prediction here. And Jesus, by the way, I think he's going 402 and a half or something like. No, he might be going 410 at this meet on deadlift. So he's gonna up the ante a little bit on you. But I get the point. You're still lighter and everything. But I think I think it was 410 is what he's going for on deadlift. Mm-hmm. So 904. So once
but you said like I'm lighter as if it's like close. Like as if it's comparable.
Well, no, I know what you're saying, bro, but I'm like he's got the all around highest. Now, once you
but Taylor Atwood by far was the best deadlifter.
Is Taylor Atwood going to Worlds?
Yeah. Okay. He's kind of hurt right now, but he's still going and he still should be able to win. But he's looking good. But he pulled 750 at 163, and by points that destroyed everybody. But mine just barely beat him, and so yeah, it's crazy. He was by far the most impressive deadlifter to me because his leverages are not like very good for deadlift, and to do that at 163 is just mind blowing.
How tall is he?
He's 5'5", 5'6".
Okay, so same as Russ.
Yeah.
So once you and Jesus win worlds here in a month, that's your goal. So where do you go from there? Like, how long are you going to do this? How long are you going to push?
That's a good question, man. I don't know. I think until I see that I can't make progress anymore without my soul being crushed every day, I would say until early 30s. I think you peak in your like 33, 34, and then after that it's kind of downhill. And for me, I don't see a value in continuing to push my body beyond a point where it doesn't make sense. Again, kind of like I talked to you about, I'll be like, hey, now's a good time to be, get my TRT going and kind of just enjoying life a little bit more than being beat down by training every day. And I'm kind of excited about that, honestly. Like looking forward to that, and what that does. Because from what I understand, like testosterone is, I forgot who described it this way. Testosterone is what makes effort feel good, something like that. And that is a big thing for me that I feel like that would be huge for just day-to-day life and experiences.
What about like what are your life goals? What is your vision?
I really am working on, so like I am one of the coaches with Sean Noriega on Team Nori. So we're doing a lot of coaching stuff, trying to build up the team, trying to coach. I have 4 lifters at Worlds, so coaching world champions obviously is a big deal. And then see where it goes from there. But building myself up and being the most successful version of myself in whatever option or whatever field I'm pushing for. So that's really it right now. I don't have any hard plans on anything else. But it kind of just see where it goes.
Oh, that's a good answer. And I got to ask like a really important question here. So like, what do you think of Cracker Barrel? You like
Very
it?
good. Yes.
What?
Yeah. I grew up, I mean, in Texas DFW, we have a bunch of Cracker Barrels around. And I haven't been in a while, but I definitely, if I'm going to pick breakfast food near me, that's going to be a good option.
I have to ask everybody about Cracker Barrel. It's my favorite restaurant. It's amazing.
Yeah. And did they have that in Wisconsin?
There was one when I grew up in Madison. Now I'm in Tennessee. It's all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
so I had a little bit growing up, and now it's like my go-to because honestly, very affordable. You know what you're getting when you go to all of them. They're the exact same. I personally favor the fried chicken with the gravy on top, and then I get the mashed potatoes, and then you got to get the potato casserole, hash brown casserole. That's a good one. Then you get the biscuits and all that. That's what I get every time. It's like clockwork. You don't have to look at the menu. I've also had the beignets. The beignets you dip in the pecan sauce. Very good. Well, now, what about you? What's your go-to Cracker Barrel meal?
Man, it's been so long. I think what I got was like some waffles or either French toast or something like that. I don't remember. It's been a long time.
I think if you were more consistent with your Cracker Barrel outings, you might get that 400-kilo deadlift a little faster.
There you go.
That might do. I mean, what's your go-to restaurant in Texas? What do you think? What's your favorite?
Okay, so I don't eat at restaurants too much. I think I like Kincaid's. It's like a 70s style like burger place. That's really good. I like Mexican food, so anything like authentic hole in the wall type Mexican food is great.
So favorite food, period. Favorite food, period. Mexican food, what kind? Or are we thinking something else? Like
No, I'm gonna go with like a burger probably.
what's on the burger though?
It's plain, but it's super plain. Yeah.
That's it. That's your favorite food.
Probably, man. I don't know. I can't. I think for like a breakfast food is probably my favorite, like pancakes or like French toast, probably.
Okay, pancakes and French toast. That's a good answer.
Mm.
Do you eat pretty clean, like to maintain 209 ish? No, free for all.
No, I have Chick-fil-A all the time,
There you go.
Chipotle all the time. Because I am like I was always a 183-pound person,
Yep.
but I moved up and wanted to stay closer to that heavier weight class, and I think it just makes more sense for my body. But I do kind of eat like junk food a lot, and I'm staying around the same weight, so it just feels comfortable for me, and I feel good and consistent at this weight.
See, guys, if he was on PEDs eating like that, he'd be 242, like for real. Like that's all. What more proof do you need? But what? Okay, this is my favorite kind of stuff. I'm very passionate about my food. So
Yeah,
if you're going to the grocery store, what are we getting here? What are we looking at? Some of the main things.
96 for beef, salmon. I get some like frozen just chicken breast, and I'll put that in like a crock pot and just do like taco seasoning on it. Just let it like kind of split apart and put that in like a burrito. Make burritos with like refried beans or like regular pinto beans or black beans. I like the turkey delights from like the frozen like breakfast biscuits, the Jimmy Dean delights, something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those are good. I like cinnamon bread with cookie butter. The
Oh shit.
you know what you know what were you gonna say?
Heck yeah, bro. Cookie butter. What's up?
Cookie butter, yeah. Do you like those? So this is like a very polarizing question. Do you like the Biscoffs like cookies like on the airport?
Like the cookies on the plane that they give you
The
in the little
plain,
packets.
yes.
I like them. They're not cookie butter. They're good.
There's a cookie butter that they sell.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
called
yeah,
like
yeah.
Biscoff.
Yeah, I've seen
I
that.
use that with the cinnamon bread, and that's up there.
Damn.
That's
So
really good.
we got cinnamon bread with cookie butter on it. I've never tried this. This is unreal.
Yeah. So
That's the combo.
some fruits, pineapple, bananas, that kind of stuff. Pop Tarts. I get like cinnamon roll Pop Tarts. Those are pretty good. That's mainly about it. Like that's the main staples, and then everything else is like extras. Oh, the one thing is Cliff Bars. Cliff Bars. I eat a ton of Cliff Bars.
Blueberry. What kind? Blueberry?
Crunchy peanut butter and white chip.
Okay. Good answer. That's fair. Dude,
Those
what
are good
about
too.
pizza? Do you get the pizzas at the grocery store?
That destroys my insides. I will just shit all day.
Pizza does?
Yeah, I can't digest it well.
Wow, see, everybody's different. I love my pizzas, like the Motor City Pizza Company 5 cheese bread, unreal. But I understand if you got to, if that doesn't suit you, I totally get it.
It's good. There's some times where I'm like, I don't care. I'll have pizza anyways.
It's that good, guys. It's that good.
Yeah.
No, this is the real facts people need to know about the IPF World Champions. This is the inside info that all the other countries are going to listen to get the knowledge about the diet here. That's awesome, man. I got it. All right. That I think we'll wrap it up here. I don't want to make it too long, but honestly, bro, this was fascinating. Like I loved it.
I have one question for you though.
Yeah, whatever you got.
Before we close out. So now, I mean, like again, kind of more context here. I started powerlifting back when it was only Powerlifting Watch. I only knew about like untested powerlifting. I didn't know anything. So I followed you like T Cummins, BJ Whitehead, Dan Green. That was like the realm or zone I was in at the time. Then I discovered USA Powerlifting, and I kind of went over to that side, right? And it kind of seems like there's this huge split. Like you either are like you pay attention to all the USAPL, IPF people, or you don't at all, and you're only seeing like the untested side, and you don't even acknowledge like the other side. And that seems like it's been the case. Now at this point, right, if you're getting like, say your son or something is getting into powerlifting or is interested in it, are you going to push, one side or the other? Are you going to be telling him like, hey, you need to do this clean. You need to not, handle any gear or anything like that. What are you going to do as a father, right?
Well, I mean, this is more hypothetical because I just had a daughter, and obviously there's no way in hell she's touching anything. But if
really, why not? Why not?
It's almost like the double standard. I totally think like PEDs for women in some regards can be much more irresponsible. It's much more.
Is it because it's like a derivative of a male hormones?
It just, yeah, it literally would change you as a person, like as a
Mhm.
female. It's not going to enhance your qualities. It's going to literally morph you. Um, with some exceptions like Ostarine, Anavar, these will really not even be noticeable. But I still wouldn't ever like, no. So hypothetically, if I were to have a
Mhm.
son, I would definitely steer him away from anabolics because I was so reckless. There was no knowledge back then. It was just take everything. I have lasting side effects from this stuff. Like I do. I have I have scars from acne from like 10 years ago. It pisses me off. Not 10 years, but 8. And it's just like this is never gonna fully go away. These scars are there. That kind of stuff. It's just not, and that was from tainted gear that was made in somebody's basement and crappy and all that. But it's still, it's just one of those things I would totally dissuade anyone from doing. I love talking about my experiences with it, but
Mhm.
I would totally dissuade anyone from doing it. I would never, you know, um, try to make it. There are appealing aspects of it, but I would definitely no. What you said though is interesting. Like there is this divide between the tested and untested side, and it was very prevalent when I was in it. Like I definitely noticed it. We had no clue what the USAPL was doing. We just
Mhm.
didn't know. It was almost like it didn't exist. And I feel like that's the case now too, where it's still that way. And then the USAPL guys and they don't really pay too much attention to the enhanced guys either. I'm somewhat trying to like bridge that gap a little with what I'm doing here
I've
because
seen it. Yeah.
I want to talk to not only guys on drugs, but I want to talk to the best natural guys. And I just want everyone to get a platform. And I don't think it'll ever be completely um, there's always going to be some degree of the divide there, and that is what it is. But I obviously was more on the untested side because I was literally like natural up until I was 20. But I'm like so fascinated now by the drug free guys. Like I love hearing what you guys do, and like it's just really freaking cool to me. So I'm trying to talk to everybody, but I just it's really interesting. I don't know how else to put it. Like
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is one of those things that I almost see, and I've had this conversation with Johnny Candido about it, is like some people when they get into powerlifting, they don't see it as a sport. They just see it as, wow, these are big weights that we're moving or people that are moving, and that is impressive in of itself. And then I think as you get into the sport, you either decide whether like, hey, which route you're gonna do, but also like the way I view powerlifting is not necessarily like a strength sport. I see it like almost like a game, and like you're trying to play this game to level up your character, and you're trying to push, all, whatever it is, in any nerdy facet that you can say. And I see it as this sport of powerlifting, not necessarily like strength. Whereas like some people look and they see like the arches or like you know squatting super wide and just barely hitting depth, or like sumo deadlifts, and they're like, okay, well that's not strong. Like you're bending the rules to get to what output you want, right? And so that's how I view it. I'm trying to be in that zone where some people will never see it that way. And so it's kind of interesting to kind of pick and hear some people's different thoughts about it. Because there's some people even on like the IPF side that just want it to be super, this is just how strong somebody is and that's it. And we don't care about anything else. So there's like a middle ground there, I think.
yeah, it is. It's hopefully things will change, but there just wasn't it wasn't like that, at least in the years I was like competing. There was a huge divide, like noticeable.
Hmm.
So the two sides almost just didn't acknowledge each other.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it looks silly now in hindsight. Like I look back, I'm like, it's somewhat, we're doing almost different things, but it's I don't know. There shouldn't be that divide really. There's too much of a division already in powerlifting, but that could be another subject for another day. So
Hey, just to be clear, I love what you're doing now and like the content you're pushing and this trying to meet people kind of in the middle here on the untested versus tested side. And it seems like you are really enjoying it. So I'm very happy to see it. And then obviously too is like you have a very rare perspective now where you're somebody that was very much untested and lived that like hard, and then now you're kind of coming back after the fact and saying like, hey, here's some things that we can learn from, or like maybe we should have done this differently, or I should have did this differently. you're going to do this, then hey, you need to be aware and blah 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 blah. I think that's super good and very, again, like, hats off to you about it, because I don't think a lot of people want to do that or say that. They kind of just are done and they're just kind of out of it, and they never tell the next generation about some of this stuff. So I think it's very helpful.
Yeah, and I'm learning a lot from you guys. Like everybody I talk to, I learn a lot. It's cool. It's almost like my mind is expanding to ideas and things, and it's awesome. I enjoy it so much. So yeah, man. I mean, I really appreciate having you on. I think we'll wrap it up and thank you so much for coming on. Awesome topics. Like I loved it, every minute of it. So
awesome. Yep. I loved it, man. Thanks.
All right, brother. I'll post clips up throughout the week next week, and then I'll post it up next Friday, and then I'll probably post Jesus the week after that, because I want to get this out a little sooner. But I appreciate it, man.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
It's great talking to you, Chance.
All right.
I'm rooting for you too, man. I'm seriously. I want to be watching closely. Bring home the freaking gold. Tell Jesus the same thing. You guys are my bros now. Like I'm rooting for you. Seriously, I can't wait. I'm excited. Is it June? What day? 11th?
June 10th.
10th. Okay, we're close. All right. I'll be watching, man. Keep it going.
Thanks so much, man.
All right, buddy. I'll see you.